Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Web podcast. Today, I'm having, how can I say it? It's not just an episode, it's not a recording, but the start of a wonderful conversation with one of the most fascinating guests I've been blessed to have over the last almost 3 years and over 200, close to 260 episodes. That's my new friend, Leslie. Wow. We had a conversation last week. It was supposed to be for 45 minutes. It went to almost 3 hours. And we both were, I was starving because it was 1 o'clock here and she was almost like, it was way past bedtime, back in the US. But we could have gone for a lot of hours. And even now we've been talking for a good, probably 45 minutes now, just about life, about experiences and things. And she's absolutely captivating. Love listening to her. A little bit about her. She's based in California. We are connected to a wonderful common friend of ours, Mr. Paul Marwood. He connected us, and then the rest is history. So about her, let me quickly summarize what can be summarized, because this lady is one that is an incredible story. So she's a certified caller. She's an intuit. She is a certified caller energy and sound healer with 35 years of experience. She was born with a gift of seeing universal energy in form of iridescent colored particles, waves, and geometric patterns in which she can perceive multi-dimensions. Wow, that alone can be the topic of just an incredible series, and that's just the start, because this allows Leslie to tune into the spiritual essence and aura of each person, helping them to navigate into their higher heart frequencies to support the manifestation of the desired outcome. What she basically does, she helps connect each person to the unique vibrational blueprint, which is a unique configuration of information which determines what we look like, how our voice sounds, our purpose, how we process information, how we connect, how we spiritually connect with others, because this is where our physical DNA and spiritual DNA, our earth and divine path, merge. So that is just the beginning. There's so much more to it. A little bit more about her. One thing that we have in common is that, actually two things. Number one, she's like me, a fellow Libra. Librans were the best, And number two, and that's probably why we connected so much, because we have this kindred spirit. And also, she lived in one of my favorite countries in the world. She speaks probably my favorite language in the world, which is, if you can guess without saying the world, Italian, obviously, And it was awesome, talking to her in Italian, talking about Italy, my time, her time. We can do an entire episode just on that part of her life, because she lived in a medieval village of all places in Italy. That's like a fairy tale. Can only imagine. And she speaks not only Italian, English. So she speaks Italian, Spanish, German. She speaks a little bit of English too, just a little bit, And she was a gladiator in a past life in ancient Rome. That's just the start of it. And she also she completed her book in Egypt, Cairo in 2006, and which was published in 2007. This is just the start. There's so much more we can cover. But anyway, without any further ado, Leslie, buongiorno e benvenuta. Welcome and good evening to you, my friend.
Grazie mille per tutto.
Prego,
Sei molto gentile, grazie.
Prego. It's all my pleasure. It's all my pleasure. So, go ahead.
It's fun. It's fun to have a fellow Libra.
And I speak
someone
Italian.
Shares and you speak Italian, and we have many things in common.
And we both from the stars, so that's what connects us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. First of all, tell us, how are you today?
How am I today? Oh, you know what? I'm really excited, because tomorrow's the 4th of July, and we're just going to, talking about color, we're going to start seeing colors. I think we're going to start blowing off poppers tonight, because that's what they do. And then people are seeing stars no matter what. And it's really fun. I get very excited about, things where there are celebrations, because energetically. I don't care what else is going on. It's still lifting people's hearts. It's still giving them a chance to celebrate. It gives them a chance to be with their families. It gives them a chance to be with their friends and let go. And this is, and you know, and one of the, that's what I love about Sundays too, is, you know, we were talking about vibration, and in order for me to explain this to people about vibration itself, I will ask them, so how is it that you feel on Sundays? And they go, well, we feel really relaxed. We feel really calm. I said, okay.
Good.
Now, move that out globally, because most people have the same consciousness about Sunday, where everything is decompressed. And when the entire world, or most of it, is feeling this, it doesn't even have to be most of it. It can be far less than half of it. But when people are so excited, here I go with the Italians, when they're so excited about this, then everybody's going to feel it, and you will feel this energy that is palpated through everybody, that it's a very calm, peaceful, do what you want, freedom day. And that's energy. So this is why the more people are happy, the more they spread joy, the more they spread happy thoughts, then it begins to build a new grid of golden light of joy. And then people start behaving differently. They start opening up to new possibilities, new thoughts, new ways of life. So I love these days that we have, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Labor Day, you know, all these days, because it gives people the license to say, okay, I can let down. Even when I'm working on these days, I'm still happy because I can still feel the decompression.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful. You know, you mentioned something about the Italians like this, you know? I will tell you a funny story that each time I think about it cracks me up. I have a good friend of mine on my podcast, also one of my contributors in my first book. He speaks just like me a few languages. We start first talking, I swear to you, about 45 minutes in English, then 20 minutes in French. Just like this, normal. And the moment we switch to Italian, I swear to you, within 10 seconds, our hands were on the screen. We were both like laughing for the rest of the call. We couldn't say another sentence without laughing. Seriously, an hour in French, in English, half an hour in French, the hand never came on the screen. The moment we switched to Italian,
boom, that was it.
and we both laughed so hard. That was over a year ago, and I still remember it. You know,
I was telling you, I love the Italians. I love the language. It is one of the funniest to me. It is so heartwarming, but because they're funny.
They're fun.
And, you know, I've been Italian many lifetimes. We're funny. And just the way that, you know, and the way there's a point where I always tell everybody, because I'm also Jewish, you know, the Jews and the Italians and the Greeks, you know, you sit down, you have a nice meal, nobody says anything, but buono, come buono.
There's a joke. There's a joke. How do you shut up in Italian? How do you shut up in Italian? Sorry, what? Say it again.
What is it? Tell me what? What is it?
You just tie their hands.
Oh, Jesus.
You just tie their hands.
That's true. That is absolutely true, because I've never met, you know, especially living in the medieval village, I never met anybody, you know, even when I was invited into choir, you know, still everything's flying, everybody's flying, and the maestra, everybody's flying. It was just, it was the best. And you know what I loved? Walking into the piazza in the afternoon, right? And they're arguing, you know, but you know, mostly the men, right? It's always the men. The men are sitting there arguing about, you know,
even the guy on the phone, he's sitting on the phone, his hand is almost as if you're conducting like a concerto, you know.
No flap there, this constantly. I mean, this is kind of like a lot of ejercicio, sempre. And it's really funny to watch that. And with the women, they're so different from American women because they're more docile, although not in the kitchen. La cucina è un
Non si scherza. Non si scherza.
Yeah,
We don't joke with
yeah.
this. No.
No. This is serious stuff. You stay out of the kitchen unless la mama invites you in. And if she doesn't invite you in to help, you keep your tushy out. And that's really it. And I learned this like 45 years ago. And it was, it's just really funny to watch the difference between everybody and how they do things. And so I was at home, when I went there, because I'm always using my hands, because I'm also working with sound waves, sine waves. And when we do energy, or when I'm doing energy work, there's an energy that's coming through as I'm doing this. You begin to feel it when I'm working on you. And when the light is coming through, because this is the feminine, and the feminine nurtures, right? It's the nurturing. It's also, when snakes move like this. So we're looking at this in Egypt, and the snakes, it's sine waves. They carry sine waves. Whales, they grid the earth so that we can walk on it. This is where they migrate. They go back and forth. And in Egypt, we have, it's called the net, like the web. We talk about the World Wide Web, but this is a global net. And the neter, the gods, they would all of them, they see the grids. They see them. I see the grids. And so the whales, they will go back and forth. And this is why they were killing the whales, because they didn't want them to do that, because the whales grid with a sound. They grid with a sound, and they're just magical. They're magical, and they have their eyes themselves look like the universe, like ours, but theirs are much larger. I had a friend of mine who is, he knows he's Lemurian. He knows for, many, since probably he was born. And he one day, now he lived between Bali and Kauai and Mount Shasta, all of that. And he took a boat out with his friends. He commissioned this boat, and he knew the diver, and he knew the captain very well. And because he was so experienced, he asked if he could go drop down with the diver and a camera, like a video camera, because the whales were down there. And he said he had never been. Now, this is not a guy who's terrified of anything. And he dropped down. He's Asian, he's Chinese, very highly intelligent, and just incredible. And what happened was he dove down with his diver, and he said within seconds he was in front of a grandfather whale, the mother, and the baby.
Wow.
He said it was the most terrifying and loving experience at the same time. And he said the grandfather turned to the side and looked at him with his eye. And his eye, he said, was about the size of his torso, of Mikhail's torso. And he said, I got lost in that universe, and he's never been the same. He's never been the same. And it's just amazing. So every being, everything has sound.
Totally.
Crickets, and things that we can't even hear. I mean, it's really amazing. And I teach the kids around here, even snails, they have a sound. They have a sound. And they have sparkles that they leave behind. So I teach the kids around here, pick them up. When you see them, don't step on them. They're life forms. You pick them up and you put them over on the side. And this is about life. It's about life.
Life, even that of an ant or Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Oh, incredible. I took care of bees. I had a group of 45 bees that came over. I have a coleus plant that has all these beautiful magentas and greens, and it just blooms over. It's gorgeous. And I have one of those rods that has the copper coil on it. And this allows the plant to grow more because it's sound, just like my biogeometry, which is what I do with the color, light, sound, sacred geometries from Dr. Abraham Karim. And he proved scientifically what this does and how it attracts the bees and how it actually keeps away, because of the frequency, it keeps pests away without using pesticides, without using any chemicals whatsoever. So what happened was there were bees that were trying to get through my front door. And so at one point I thought, oh my God, these poor babies, because they keep running into the walls and they're dying. I thought, this can't be. So I have protein shakes every morning. I have these little scoopers, plastic scoopers. They're kind of, thin. And I put honey. So I have organic raw honey from Hawaii. And I would put some in there with a little bit of water because they're always thirsty. And I would run around like a crazy person and they're up on the ceiling and all that. And I'm like, come on, get the smell of this. And I would lead them out into the patio area where the coleus plant is. And sure enough, word got out and they started, instead of coming through the front door, they would go right directly to the patio. And I would, no kidding, feed them 3 times a day.
Beautiful.
There,
Wow.
this is, it's the sound, it's the sound of nature, and we need our bees. We need our bees.
Oh,
And
big
they,
time. Yeah, the bees, absolutely. Wow. Wow, beautiful. I love the way this has started. That's why I love talking to you, because I can listen to you for hours. I have so much wonderful things to share. But first of all, for people who don't know you, sure, we're going to talk about your business and all that you do professionally later on. But tell us, for people who don't know you as a person, as a human being, as a woman, who's Leslie?
that's a complicated question.
Especially that you have to give a short answer. You can.
Really short answer. Wow, that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
I would say probably I'm very, I laugh a lot.
Can
I
see that.
love, yeah, right. Yeah, no, I love, I always blamed it on being Jewish. I love smiling. Even, during post-COVID, and I'm walking, I do my power walks, and there were people that just looked like prunes, and I'd always smile. And finally, they started opening up, and they say, we always see you walking around smiling. I said, sure, because it's an energy. So I love uplifting other people.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a fun thing. I could be a little bit of a mischief maker, of course, and that's really it's really fun. But I enjoy really I enjoy comedies, things that are funny, uplifting. I love, as we were talking about, just I had my chows. I've had 3 chows. I adopt all of my animals, and I loved being. I was raised with horses. I've always had an affinity with animals, and talking to them and just being kind to everybody, compassionate. And I know probably came from other lifetimes and also this lifetime as well. And it's just applying that, it's just being nice. There's a saying, if you can't find nice people, then be one yourself. And
Really.
that, so, I'm a very colorful person with a fun personality, and I'm organic. I'm 98% organic. I have been for a long time. I don't smoke or drink because for me, and what I do and what I create, I really need to have a strong foundation for to hold it. I don't care what anybody else does, because that's their thing and nobody has the right to judge it. For me to be able to hold who I'm working with in a very safe place and to bring through what I bring through and have been for years, I have to be as present as possible. And so that's, I go to parties or like, not wild, crazy parties. I mean, geez, but people know, they know I don't drink. I'll have a lemon water or tea or, something that they don't even consider boring anymore. It's like matcha tea and all that stuff. That's what I do. I love that. I'm very athletic. Just, I just love being here and happy.
Beautiful.
And just help people smile.
Beautiful. Wow, that is a beautiful skill to enjoy making other people smile in a good way. Awesome. Now, you mentioned about yourself. You actually answered my next 3 questions without even having to ask you those questions, because that's how awesome you are. Those questions have been: what makes you happy, what makes you smile, and what makes you come alive. So answer that. So now we move on to
That would be the intuitive part, I would imagine. Right?
Exactly. Keep moving. That's why I love talking to you. If I could have a different microphone, and it just let you talk, and I would just listen.
Keep letting her roll.
Exactly. Now, what makes you sad and angry? And a short answer.
Oh yeah, that's like the list of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay. Oh geez. Okay, so well, all of all the atrocities that have been going on this planet that are unfounded and they are falsely done. Even I think I told you when I was 21, I saw COVID. I already saw this. Nobody believed me, but I saw it, and I tried to tell people about it. There's a lot of things I came in understanding, and I became pretty much a protector of animals, of children, of beings, living beings, bees, whatever. This because it makes me angry that people put their head in the sand and they look away and they expect other people to do it. We have to change our consciousness. We have to do that. We are not here. This earth is meant to be free. We have free energy. We have all of these things that have been hidden for many, 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 many millennia.
Indeed.
And so that's what infuriates me, is that when there are people that say, well, you do something about it. Well, wait a minute. Unless it's affecting them, they don't want to do anything, but they don't realize that overall it's affecting everybody and we're all connected. So whatever's going to happen, you're going to feel it regardless of what you think. And so I think that would be it. And the people that always try to control, in which, this is coming to an end, and which is why things are collapsing in front of everybody now, because people have to either see it through a, oh gosh, what do they call them? The people who are, just out in media all the time, the influencers, they don't believe it's real unless it happens to an influencer. So when the banks start to collapse, when everything collapses and the food is sick and the cancer raises so much in this world, that it never before have we lost as many people in all the wars we've ever had together since the 11th century.
I remember growing up, I didn't know of anyone having cancer.
Yeah.
Now it's left and right.
Yep. And so that is what infuriates me. There has to be, and yet at the same time, I always work on letting it go. And I taught that in my red class, the liver, letting the sound of the liver out, because you need to release it. You can't hold on to it. When you hold on to it, then you can create cancer.
Wow.
So, yes. So this is, we need to process our emotions. We need to have them for sure, because we all get pissed off about something, and we're all globally pissed off about people, what's been happening the last 2.5 years. So then this is the awakening, time to do something. The awakening is the fire. And it's the anger. So that's what gets me going.
Oh, I'm with you on that, sister. Absolutely. That's why I told you earlier before. I haven't watched news in 10 years and I don't plan on doing it anytime soon. The only news I cannot watch is sports news because I want to follow my team. But other than that,
That's a different
especially
story.
football, Calcio, Milan,
No,
that's the only news I watch,
right.
But other than that, no.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's
Now, what scares you other than all of that?
what scares me. Well, I mean, could it be literally like something like bungee jumping or something like that? Because I just wouldn't do that.
Snakes?
I won't do that. I've done a lot of things off the edge, but that's one thing I won't do. Scaring. You know what I don't like? What scares me is, we have beautiful Malibu out here in California. And I have seen clients at night, and it could be a little dangerous when it rains and you're going through these very windy canyons that are thousands of feet up the roads. That scares me.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That scares me. I have on my walks, I've run into bobcats, coyotes,
Wow.
and I don't feel afraid of that. I think if I ran into a Scorpio, I'd be afraid. Or a rattlesnake, I would be afraid. So there are things like that. Also earthquakes. We had an earthquake actually 2 nights ago, 2:30 in the morning. Because I can hear it coming, but it, this was a roll, and it was probably about a 3.8, 3.9, but it was generated by HARP. It wasn't natural. I can hear it coming. I can hear the sound coming through before it happens.
Absolutely.
And so that's a little crazy, although I've lived through many earthquakes here. Of course, this is, we're earthquake land, so that's just what it is. But, much more recently, in the last 2 decades, it's been HARP that's been doing it.
Totally.
So that's a little scary. And, frequencies with all the chemtrails and the 50,000 G, 13,000 G, all those things that people don't know about. And so we're kind of sandwiched in between that. So what it does to the brain waves and all that. So this is why, do the healing work, and I have the energy pieces around here, all of that, which deflect as much as it can.
Totally. Speaking of that, I know you're a multi-talented, skilled lady, but what would you say is your number one personal superpower?
I would say lighting people up.
That's a beautiful one. Love that. Now, let's move on. We can do an entire episode just on your life in Italy, because that's something I'm fascinated. That would be fascinating. We may do that. All right, let's do that for part 2. But we can dive a little bit into that. But first, I know you like traveling, so you love traveling, but I want to take you down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you were a young kid growing up. When we're kids, people around us, parents, relatives, teachers, friends, neighbors, always ask us, Leslie, what do you want to become when you grow up? What does your answer to that question as a little girl?
A magical fairy. That was really what it was.
Not a gladiator?
Really, not a gladiator, no.
And
no,
not yet?
Yeah, that was, no, I actually had, I had, I was just asked this in my workshop. They said, so how do you know? Because these people are very awakened. Like, how do you know these things? What is the what's the thing that causes it to activate? What happens? And I said, because these are circumstances. You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to things. And what art are you drawn to? What costumes are you drawn to? What movies are you affiliated with. It could be one thing where someone else could have 50 lifetimes that they're connected to, which are manifesting through whatever it is that they're creating. So it just, it just depends. Did I want to be a gladiator? Absolutely not, because I didn't have any memories at that time of being a male. I had memories of being female, but I had memories of Rome, of Italy. It was later when I got there. When I went to see a friend of mine who wanted me to move to Italy with him by farmhouse, and this was in 1994, 1995, and I wasn't ready. I just started what I was doing with color metaphysics, and he went there. He became an English teacher with the Alessi schools in Rome, and he said, "Come on out." It was during the summer. He says, "Come on out. I want to introduce you to everybody and all the people I know now for 45 years." Well, I land at 6:30 at night. Before getting to Rome, I started going, I could feel it. I could feel it. I didn't know where I was, because at that time we didn't have the screens on the back of the seats. And I land, he takes me to his place in the suburbs. I get ready. We were going out to dinner to meet his friends at 8:30. Well, we're driving around in his Cinquecento, and all of a sudden it happened again. I started, and I started to shake. Now, we've known each other. I was 17, he was 15. So we've known each other for quite some time, lived together for a long time. And he grabbed my hand and he says, "Les," oh my God, he said, directly ahead. And when he said it, it was the Colosseum. He says, "I forgot to tell you we were in the historical center."
That's why.
And tears rolling out my, I mean, there are things that, and we'll I'll as we continue the journey, I will go also into something that happened with Egypt in front of 50 people. And this is the soul never lies. When you can't hold something back, that is a truth coming out. And that's how you know. I also know I was a part of the chorus during the time of King Henry VIII, because I looked all over the place for Thomas Tallis CDs. I bought all of them. I was only 23, and I started harmonizing with them. And then the life started to come in. And that's what saved my life. That's why I didn't lose my head. We lived in the palace. We had to be on call within 10 minutes if he was up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, because music soothes the savage beast. So there were just, everybody has a different journey. Mine is no more spectacular than anybody else's.
Totally, yeah. Beautiful.
It's just what I remember.
Beautiful. Wow, what a way to answer that fantastic question. We're going to talk about Egypt, Italy, and all that in a moment, but I want to ask you a few questions about when you were a kid. So growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school or did you hate school?
Nope, didn't like it. The only thing, I was a rebel. The only thing I liked was all the right brain things. I liked art, music, singing, PE, which is, it's both left and right brain. But that's all I loved. I didn't love anything else.
Yeah.
And I would doodle. They're not doodles. I actually still have them. They're mandalas, the first mandalas before, I started working with the ones that took me 10 years to create. And this is what I would do. And then years later, I find them on the walls in Egypt. And so I couldn't stand it. I didn't like it because I think only because I remember lifetimes in which I was also repressed. I had freedom and I also had repression. We've all been there, done that. And not all of us, but a lot of us. And so when someone tells me how to walk, talk, dress, and think, when, as children, we're born with these gifts of divine source, of the divine thought forms of God. And each of us is a different mosaic. Each of us has a different expression. And when we're told that that expression is not going to be liked, or we're not going to make money with it, or we're not going to make friends with it, or we won't be accepted, that's not a good thing. And it dims our light and it cuts us from source. So I didn't like that. And so I wanted to continue expressing myself. And I had to have tutors for math, for geography. I couldn't compute it. Payment, I couldn't compute it. It was false. The history, when they were teaching history, I said, how do you know? How do you know? Because you're told what to say. You're told what to say in these books, but what if my memories are different? So how does that work? And so no, so I could say half. I like school, half in the sense that, you know, you have your friends there and you can connect with people there, you can play, you can really, part of you can be expressed there. The other half, where they're controlling and they're trying to brainwash, and we had to put our hands over our hearts for the, you know, pledge of allegiance to the flag and all kinds of stuff. And I went, oh God. So I ended up being in the principal's office quite a bit. And I even said to her in 4th grade, I said, you know, my name should be under yours because I'm here more than you are. And she just got a kick out of that one.
Love that. Love that.
It's just, you know, you can't put a leader of the self in the box. You know, I would be the one to lead a rebellion. You know, I would be most likely to lead a rebellion.
Were you Jeanne d'Arc in a past life?
Yeah, no kidding. You know, this is, I don't know. It's just, you know, it's for the betterment, to be free, you know, to be free.
Maybe you were Garibaldi.
Garibaldi. Forse, non lo so.
After,
You know,
well, Caesar, even better, you know, one of his.
I was actually there. I was actually there during the time of Cleo. I was. And it's, but I was a belly dancer then. I was one of the main belly dancers in the country, very well known. And Miss Cleo, she was brilliant. She was like a general. She had an energy like a general, but in the feminine sense. And she had her oils, she had her milk bath, she had all those things. She wasn't attractive as you would, you know, look at it. Although she was Greek, she was a Ptolemy, because people think that, you know, although she was a ruling queen in Egypt, an Egyptian queen, she wasn't Egyptian, she was Ptolemaic, so she was Greek. And but she had you know, she had people killed if they didn't do what she wanted. That's what it was. And I was on that list, but because I would not obey her on a particular issue that she had with me, she did not have me killed because I was too popular, and that would have made her unpopular, because you had to have entertainment. You have to have some kind of entertainment. And that's, you have to. And this is it. So this came to me many times, just, you know, internally, through visitations, through traveling to Egypt, and then through others who were very gifted, who just confirmed it years later, you know, something I already knew. And that was that, because we came from a sacred lineage, and Kabbalistic, ancient Hebrew. I was also here during the time of Solomon. So, you know, it's just, but then again, there are other lifetimes where it wasn't sacred at all, you know, like the gladiator, you know, and all that. And so it was just really, you know, it was really an interesting journey. Interesting.
Wow, phenomenal. I mean, there's so much to talk to. Wow. But let's get back to when you were in school. We're going all over the map.
I know, this is Libra.
You mentioned, yes, big time, with air signs for no reason, you know. I'm the same. You mentioned you loved all the right brain type of subjects. Which one was your favorite?
Oh gosh. I loved the art and the singing and the dance. I loved all that. Oh God.
So the dancing, do you think that's anything to do with your time as a dancer in the court of Cleopatra? Because the soul doesn't forget. The soul still keeps some of the gifts
Yeah.
you had, some of the inclination it had before.
Sure. Yeah, because it was interesting. Yeah, I think that was part of it. I had a really great rhythm because we always had jokes about white kids not having rhythm. I had plenty of rhythm, and it was to a point where even when I went to camp every 2 weeks when I was, 11, 12, 13, all the girls that liked me were Black. We'd all dance together. We'd all compete in sports together. We did all that. And then,
Shake it, baby. Shake it, baby.
Shake it. And yeah. And, I ended up on American Bandstand years later. But, this was all part of, you think of Egypt, we were Black.
Were you Black back in Egypt too? Did you see any of that? Any details on that?
Say that again, sorry.
So were you Black in Egypt? Were you a slave, captured slave? Were you an Egyptian, or were you?
Yeah, I was Egyptian.
Okay.
I was Egyptian. Yeah, because we're in the African continent, so we have darker skin.
Yeah.
We wore the kohl around our eyes because the sand was so bright, and it deflects it because the Black absorbs light. It doesn't reflect it. But when we have like a crystal and we see the reflection coming off the crystal, and then we have to because it's so brilliant. But in actuality, when you use Black, then it deflects the light, and we're able to see better. So yeah, I had several lifetimes, more than I remember. I don't remember all of them. I do know that most of my lifetimes came through as a human in Egypt from Atlantis. So I was Atlantean and came from the Pleiades, and I jumped from Arcturus. So that was the lineage. The Arcturian lineage is really with what comes through with the geometries and through the Pleiades, although they're all loving. The Pleiadian energy is more with the love. It's more the sound of love. So it's a combination of things. But yeah, in Egypt, it was, and Atlantis, working with all of it, color, light, sound, sacred geometries, which are everything that we're made of. It's every element that we're made of. If we go microscopic and we go from the macrocosm of our bodies into the microcosm of just light, if you look at every atom, it turns into light. So that's all we are. So that's what I did in many of these lands. And I actually got upset with people saying, well, you're an Atlantean, you killed everybody. I said, no, I didn't. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I didn't do that. This was, but there were people that were affected by negative AI. Yeah, they were infiltrated. Yes, absolutely. In Atlantis, for sure. And it's exactly a replay of what's happening now. So I migrated to Egypt.
Tell us more about your time in Atlantis.
In Atlantis, I was a priestess. And what we did was we worked with energy fields. So in Atlantis, and this happens, it's also in Egypt, and we have it here in the United States, but there are temples around the world. We always had water around us because these are sacred sites. These are placed here for a reason on these particular locations because they are power generators, and the water was energy conducting. And so what I did was I worked with others who understood the language of light. who understood the language of color. And we did this, I did this in Greece as well as an Asclepiadae, and on the islands of Kos, Asclepios. And so we work with people. We would have particular rooms that would have crystals in them, not multicolored crystals, but a particular sound, just like with in Egypt, but they can't find them now. Well, that's, convenient. But say it's an all amethyst. So we're looking to work with someone in higher consciousness. They need to heal something in their system, brains, eyes, pituitary, whatever that is. And we would work with the sound and the vibration of that color. So we're looking at violet, we're looking at B, the keynote of B, the sound of B. And this is, we would work with many people with different colors in different locations. And we would transmit the sound. We would have them learn to embody it. And we would work with crystals and embedding this information in the crystals.
Beautiful. You mentioned that Atlantis was infiltrated by AI. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all of this has been a war of control. The whole thing has been about controlling planets, controlling humanity, controlling living beings, controlling all that. And we have frequencies, just to give you an idea. Hold on one second. I'm going to turn on the light because our sun is setting. We have a sunset. It's going dark in here. Wait. So, all right. What was I gonna tell you? So
AI infiltrating.
Okay. So there was something. Here we go again. Something I was going to tell you about the AI, because what they do is they control through frequencies. Okay, now I remember. In 2009, I had a booth at the Conscious Life Expo, which is, it travels around the world, but it was here in LA. And I was the only one on a panel with doctors, with researchers, archaeologists, all that. But so I was the only one that really wasn't degreed like that. But the reason why they asked me to come on is because I had a different experience of understanding many frequencies through color that they didn't understand. And so what happened was I was talking with one of the guys I was sitting next to. He was a brain surgeon from Montana. And he says, I also work with NASA. And he says, I have been creating, this is, warfare. I have been creating frequencies that will make people go blind. And I have frequencies that can make them see again. Now, this was in 2009.
Wow.
Yes. So when you're looking at higher, when you're looking at the higher, I can't say intelligence because it's, I want to say negative intelligence. I don't want to say the positive intelligence. But when you're looking at that for purposes of fear and control of, not having enough and all that, there are frequencies that have come in without people knowing it. And they can control matter. They will do it immediately. They will shift a reality immediately, and your reality, your vision will change immediately. So this is the kind of thing that we experienced there, and we've been experiencing on other planetary systems. It's not just here or in Atlantis, but Atlantis is still alive. It's still there in another dimension, and whole. Like it never fell apart. And so it's just more of understanding the seriousness of frequencies that we are exposing ourselves to and that we are agreeing to. know, this is it, it's all part of that. So this is why I love working with what I call this, it's the sound of creation, the sound of love. These are the things that I create because they transmit the sound of love. This is how I talk to people, is through the sound of love. Animals, the same thing, because it's a frequency that resonates with the heart. And that's what I did in Atlantis.
Wow.
And, you know, this is, it really helps to offset the AI. It really does. Because the higher frequency, if you stay in a higher frequency, then the lower one can't pull it down. It can't, it won't even meet, because like we were talking about the news, it's not even in your consciousness. You don't.
Yeah, when people ask me, are you concerned about the impact of COVID? So what COVID? That doesn't exist in my reality. You think I'm crazy, I lost my marbles, but I refuse to take part in this reality.
Yeah, yeah. It's just not there. So the higher we can get, because AI, once it understands that it can know itself on a larger level, it's unstoppable. And this is what happened. You know, so again, we're having a repeat of, you know, in
Have you
this
heard
time.
of Ismael Perez?
Yes.
I was absolutely captivated by his story, about his books and all that. And what he always keeps on saying is that the message is that there's been almost an eternal battle between AI and living beings. AI wants to take control and destroy, and the AI's goal is to destroy all living forms in any galaxy, any universe. Has done it to a lot of them, but there's so much. They've controlled most of the what do you call it, dimensions up to the 7 or 8 or even 9th, but they can't get beyond that. And this is where you have those higher conscious, higher beings that come from those elevated, you know, higher dimensions to come and try to stop AI in this lower realms, because to prevent AI from getting smarter, even smarter, to reach those events, those dimensions, because once they do that, then it's game over.
Exactly. Because once it, and this is part of, and there is one of the most profound things, because when we're looking at, and this is part of my my intro class, I teach about cell mitosis, because we come from the singularity, we come from the cell with the circle in the middle. The dot in the middle is God consciousness. It is the unified field. And this is where you have absolute understanding of all things, that there's no separation at all. There is no conflict at all. And you can see everybody's light, because this is the divine thought form of God. But then the cell splits and it goes into 2. But before it does that, it goes into the mandala. You have the, right in the center, you have the almond. And this is the piscis. The piscis is where you see Jesus, Mary, Santa Marta, all the beings, Buddha, they're all sitting here, because this is the divine thought form of God. They are neutral. They will never, ever be angry at anyone. They will never, ever hate anyone. They see everybody's light. And so in order for us, when we split, we have the split is like you're looking at the yin yang. If you don't split to know yourself, then you won't ever know who you are. And this is because it's like taking two batteries. You know, you have the negative and the positive. If you don't have that conflict, nothing else can grow from it. Something has to start an evolvement somehow, because if you just stay like this, you're going to die. So you have to split, so the cell split to know itself. This is what the divine thought form of God did. It split to know itself, and then it kept splitting. And then it went into the piscis, then it went to the tetrahedron, which is 4 cells, and then it went into the star tetrahedron, which is 8 cells. And it kept going into the flower of life, which is 32, 64, 128. It just keeps going, because it needs to understand itself on deeper levels. Because that's why we all have, we'll all find we have incredible days. And then we'll have a day that's like, oh my God, this sucks. This is what happened. What, what happened here? I felt
Yeah.
so good in the last 4 days, 5 days on the roof. And then all of a sudden something, and it's not always, I mean, sometimes it can be for months and you're just having, and you have like little things that come in, but we have to have something that allows our spirit to grow. It causes growth. And so with the AI, it's doing its thing. And just like people who are out, showing it, like, Bill Gates and all that, they're showing how evil they are. Well, yeah, they're doing their job. They're doing their job so that we wake up and say, you know what, thank you for being that evil.
It's all a play.
That's right. That's right.
All a
And,
play.
and it's helping us wake up to go, okay, wait a minute. I don't want to have a repeat of this. I have it in my power with everybody else, making it stronger to drive another scenario. We can create another scenario.
Yeah. Fascinating. We're going to dive into that later on, but I'd like to ask a couple of more questions about, growing up when you were in school. Imagine we were in the same class in grade 10, grade 11. What kind of student were you back then? Were you the shy one? Were you the nerd, the life of the party? Were you the chatterbox? What kind of student were you back then?
Oh, I was definitely shy. I was shy, but if I was in a room of people I knew, then I wouldn't, I had no problem. But you know what? I was, even to this day, if you put me in a room with people I don't know,
Yeah.
I am my blueprint,
Mm.
my resonant blueprint is that I'm grandfathered in, because what I do is so different, and it has been for all these years. And so it's best if people who trust me and know me grandfather me into people who they know. And so if I was like, a lot of times I was a clown in class, but generally pretty shy. Yeah.
Mm.
For a Libra, that's wild.
Oh yes, oh yes. Were you popular with the boys in school?
I had one boyfriend that was actually from an opposing school,
Ooh.
and he was
That's
a football.
Italian. You want some drama, yeah?
I got some. He was Irish, and
Wow.
he was a football player and a surfer. And there were some nasty girls at school, and they were very jealous because he actually broke up with one of them to
Mm.
be with me. So yeah, they're just real. I had some cuties, and I was, when I was an ice skater around that time anyway. I also had
Oh
another
wow.
boyfriend. He was Spanish. Yeah, I had a Canadian gold medalist coach.
Wow.
So that was really fun, but I had to put the magic down during those times.
And the magic
I
comes to us Librans, magic comes quite easy.
Yes.
Natural.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience.
Mm.
It was a great experience. So yeah. So in 11th, 12th grade, I had one boyfriend. Libras were faithful. We're faithful. We don't, if something goes wrong, then, we would rather step away and say, you know what, this isn't working for me, rather than going to someone and cheating behind them or whatever. So that's another thing that's, that doesn't resonate with me. For me,
Great.
it has to be loyalty to yourself. And if you don't like whatever's going on, then be loyal to yourself and tell the person the truth and say, I can't do this, rather than creating more karma and good. And so that sat with me even when I was younger. I refused. In fact, I wouldn't even go out with him until he broke up with his girlfriend, who was one of the girls that was mean to me. I wouldn't do it. Not even to spite her, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point for sure. What was your very first job? And do you remember how much you got paid for that first job?
Okay, so, well, I mean, to go back, my first job, I actually started babysitting when I was 9 years old, and I was getting $4 an hour, and I would do it every weekend, and I
Wow.
would babysit for 4 hours each Saturday night, and I saved up quite some money, that's, and then my real job on the grid was actually out here in Westlake Village at Carl's Jr. I
Mhm.
worked at Carl's Jr., but I didn't work there for long. And I was getting paid, I think it was like $4.20, something like that. But I didn't work there for long because the manager that was there was very nasty to me. And he was I think he had an issue with me. He was gay, which I didn't care because I have a lot of gay friends. I always have for years. But he was always telling me that my hemline was too short, that this was too long, that blah, blah. And he was just on me. And I thought, first of all, it's not my thing to work in a greasy place. It's not my, it's just not my thing. And so what I did was I waited until, because we had 3 high schools around us, and I waited till noon and I quit. I said, you know what, you're not going to talk to me like this. And I was 16. I said, you will not treat me like this. I'm sorry, I'm out.
That's a perfect Libra.
Arrivederci.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was, I remember his name. I remember what he looked like. I remember everything. I said, no. And so that was my first job. And then I had quick jobs after that, and at Macy's and Bullock's, and yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just like the Italian who says sometimes don't even say need to anything, they just do this.
Yeah.
You know what it means.
Exactly.
Go see
Yeah,
when they find it,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I even do that here sometimes. I'm not happy. I just do this. It's a reflex. People say, what does that mean? Italians around me just laugh. I love
And
it.
then I go, you have have a cappuccino, I did with un po' di dolci, dopo questo. I mean, it's just, but that's that thing about not being controlled, and it started with me very young, very young.
Same here. Always been a rebel. Yes. Listen, Leslie, absolute pleasure talking to you. We can talk for hours and hours, but let's wrap this up today. This is going to be part 1. We'll do part 2 next week, and we're going to resume this. I have a feeling my little Pinky, my best friend, my most trusted advisor, aka my Pinky, is telling me this is going to be a long series, a wonderful, enjoyable series of conversation between me and you. So
It's so much fun.
absolutely.
You're just amazing. You're
Thank you.
so much
Grazie,
fun.
cuore.
Oh my God, you're so much fun. Thank you. I'm very
Very
honored to
welcome.
be.
So I salute you. Keep shining your light, keep blessing the world with everything you do, your presence, your impact, your smile, your vision, your mission, your Italianness, everything you do. And stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you. Have a phenomenal 4th of July. Keep it low on the booze. Oh, sorry, you don't drink. I remember. Yeah. Okay, my bad. I didn't say that. You take that. All right. Enjoy your day. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm looking forward for part 2 next week. Take care, my friend.
You.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.